Let me start with the truth that most men refuse to admit. If you've lost a woman's trust, it's not because she's too hard to handle or overreacting. It's almost always because you screwed up. And here's the brutal reality. 99% of men don't understand how trust works. And they waste months, even years, begging, apologizing, or overcompensating. And it never works. Trust isn't a trophy you win by groveling. It's a bridge you rebuild, step by step. And most men don't even know where to start. Right now, I want you to ask yourself, have you ever thought, if I just tell her I'm sorry, everything will be okay? If the answer is yes, you're already on the wrong path. Sorry alone won't fix anything. In fact, it can make things worse. Because women can feel when an apology is hollow, when it's just words to make you feel better. If your goal is to regain her trust without begging, you need a strategy, a method that makes her see that you are reliable, consistent, and genuinely different. And yes, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Here's something controversial. Most men fail because they act like victims instead of leaders in their relationships. They want forgiveness without accountability. They want trust without effort. They act like a wounded puppy, hoping attention and pity will fix things. Let me make this crystal clear. This approach doesn't work, and it never will. Women don't respect weakness disguised as vulnerability. They respect strength, honesty, and the courage to authentic change, accountability, and patience. If you can't commit to doing the work, really committing, then stop watching now, because this video will challenge you. It will make you uncomfortable, and it will force you to confront your own failures. And that's exactly what most men refuse to do. Finally, one last controversial reality. Check. Women don't need you to beg. They need you to lead. If you are careless with her trust, your job isn't to plead for it. It's to rebuild it quietly, entirely. Become the man who makes her feel safe, valued, and respected without uttering a single desperate word. So if you're ready to stop wasting time, stop begging, and start taking real action, this video is your blueprint. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to break down 7 steps that will help you regain her trust the right way, without groveling, without excuses, and without drama. Follow these steps carefully. Apply them consistently, and you will start to see a shift in the way she interacts with you. This isn't magic. It's strategy, discipline, and accountability. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what it takes to become the man who earns trust, not the man who pleads for it. And trust me, once you grasp this, your relationships will never be the same. You're about to learn what most men fail to understand for years. Trust is earned in silence, proven through action, and respected by consistency. Now, let's get into the first step of regaining a woman's trust, the step that separates men who fail from men who actually succeed. Let's get one thing straight from the very beginning. Begging for a woman's trust is the fastest way to lose it permanently. And yet, most men do it. They send endless messages, apologize repeatedly, and promise they'll never mess up again, thinking this will fix everything. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. It pushes her further away. Women don't respect desperation. They respect men who own their mistakes and take action to fix them without whining about it. Here's why begging fails. It signals weakness. When you constantly ask for forgiveness, she doesn't see a man who's learning from his mistakes. She sees someone panicking over the consequences of his own actions. Trust is built on stability and consistency, not emotional theatrics. The moment you start Pleading, you're no longer the reliable figure she can count on. You're a man she has to manage emotionally.
And trust.
Me, no woman wants to manage a grown
Man.
that you understand the impact of your actions and are committed to being better. Responsibility isn't about graveling or explaining yourself endlessly. It's about owning your mistakes and taking steps to ensure they don't repeat. Let's make this real. Imagine you said something hurtful in a moment of anger, and she confronted you. Most men's instinct is to justify, apologize in a way that sounds rehearsed, or try to smooth things over with gifts or gestures. That's begging. A better approach: stop talking first.
Take a
moment, reflect, and say something like, I understand what I said hurt you, and I take full responsibility for it. I am going to make sure I handle my anger differently next time. Notice the difference. You're not begging.
You're
Acknowledging your fault, showing awareness and committing to change. That's powerful, and it immediately sets you apart from the majority of men who respond with excuses. Here's the controversial truth. Most men think apologizing repeatedly shows sincerity, when it actually shows weakness. Women don't need your constant I'm sorry's. They need evidence that you're aware, accountable, and capable of change. Accountability is magnetic because it signals maturity, self-control, and reliability. The exact qualities she's looking for if she's going to trust you again. Accountability also means understanding the gravity of your actions. You can't just shrug things off with "am I bad?" or expect her to accept it because you're feeling remorse. Women are tuned into actions more than words. She's looking for a man who is willing to face discomfort, admit mistakes, and take concrete steps to improve. That discomfort is where most men fail. They want forgiveness without effort, and it never works. Let's consider a realistic scenario.
Imagine
you broke her trust by sharing something personal. She confided in you. Instead of bombarding her with messages, you stop, reflect, and decide to make a plan to regain her confidence. You conscious. That's the kind of response that quietly rebuilds trust without any pleading. Notice how the power shifts. She begins to respect your actions instead of your apologies. Another reason taking responsibility is so effective is that it flips the emotional dynamic.
when you stop
Begging, you stop giving her control over your emotional state. Instead, you demonstrate that you are in control of yourself, your behavior, and your
growth.
This isn't arrogance.
It's
Maturity. Women are naturally drawn to men who can regulate themselves and face their failures hidden.
weakness is ignored.
Strength is respected. Here's a practical mindset shift that separates men who fail from men who succeed. Instead of thinking, how do I make her forgive me? Think, how do I become the man she can trust again? The difference is subtle but monumental. The first mindset is begging. The second is accountability. One is temporary and desperate. The other is sustainable and respected. Finally, remember this. Taking responsibility is a daily practice, not a one-time statement.
It's
Not enough to admit you were wrong once. You need to follow through with your behavior consistently. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to show that you are reliable, self-aware, and committed to being better. This is how trust is rebuilt slowly, deliberately, and without drama. If you can adopt this mindset and start applying it immediately, you'll notice a shift. She'll stop seeing you as someone desperate for forgiveness and start seeing you as a man who is capable, accountable, and worthy of trust.
and
That, more than any apology, is what brings her back closer to you. Here's The uncomfortable truth most men don't want to face. Talking isn't enough. You can apologize until your fingers cramp from typing. You can say, "I'll never do it again," 100 times. But if your actions don't match your words, nothing changes. Women can feel it when your promises are empty. They notice the difference between what you say. Consistent behavior. Think about it for a second. How many times have you seen a friend or maybe even yourself say all the right things to fix a problem only to fall into the same pattern over and over again? That's exactly what happens in relationships when trust is broken. Women remember patterns, not speeches. They don't need you to talk your way back into their hearts. They need to see a pattern of reliability and honesty over time. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Far from it. Women don't expect flawless humans. They expect men who can learn, adapt, and show growth consistently. Missing a deadline at work or forgetting a small promise is one thing, but ignoring repeated lessons and failing to adjust your behavior shows her you haven't actually changed. That's the difference between someone who is worth trusting again and someone who is still operating on autopilot. Here's a controversial idea. Most men think grand gestures matter more than steady improvement. The truth, they don't. Small actions, repeated consistently, are far more powerful than a one-time big fix. It's the little things that accumulate over time and prove that you are serious. Being reliable in everyday moments communicates far more than dramatic apologies ever could. It's also worth mentioning that rebuilding trust requires patience, and that's where many men fail. They want instant results. They expect forgiveness after one conversation or a single act of contrition. That impatience shows and it undermines everything you're trying to do. Trust doesn't return on demand. It returns gradually as she notices you consistently showing up in the ways that matter. Relatability is key here. Think about the times in your own life when you had to trust someone again after they let you down. Maybe it was a friend who betrayed your confidence, a coworker who messed up a project, or a teammate who didn't pull their weight. Did a single apology fix the problem? Probably not. You watch the movie over time, assess their behavior, and slowly started to trust them again if they proved they were reliable. Relationships work the same way. She's watching, assessing, and deciding whether she can trust you based on what you actually do, not what you say. Here's another harsh reality. Words are cheap. Texts, calls, and verbal promises mean nothing if your behavior contradicts them. Saying, "I'm going to change," while repeating the same mistakes is worse than saying nothing at all. Women don't need more empty talk. They need consistency, accountability, and evidence that you are evolving. That's the language she actually understands. This is where many men hit a wall. They think that once they've apologized, they've done their part. They believe that because they've expressed remorse, the burden is on her to forgive them. That's the exact mindset that keeps men stuck in the friend zone, emotional limbo, or outright rejection. Trust is earned through repeated action, not through entitlement to forgiveness. Another thing most men overlook is that rebuilding trust requires intentional behavior, not random good deeds. You can't just be nice and hope she notices. Every choice you make should reflect reliability, integrity, and awareness of the past mistakes that broke her trust. Every interaction, every decision, every word should quietly demonstrate that you are committed to being the man she can depend on. Finally, let's address a subtle but powerful point. Rebuilding trust through action also changes the Emotional dynamic in the relationship. When you stop begging and start proving, you stop giving her control over your emotional state. You show that you are in charge of your growth, your behavior, and your accountability. That quiet strength is magnetic because it communicates stability, reliability, and maturity, the exact qualities that naturally restore trust over time.
At
The end of the day, what women want isn't a perfect man. They want a man who,
consistently,
over time, assessed their behavior and slowly started to trust them again if they proved they were reliable. Relationships work the same way. She's watching, proves he's trustworthy, aware, and capable of growth. If you focus on showing her through your actions rather than telling her through your words, you start the slow but sure process of rebuilding the bridge she thought was burned. Trust isn't restored in a day. It isn't restored in a single conversation. It's restored in the countless small moments where your behavior matches your words. Every time you follow through, every time you show consistency, you chip away at the walls that went up after the betrayal. Over time, those walls come down and she begins to feel safe trusting you again. Not because you asked her to, but because your actions prove you're
worthy.
Here's the harsh truth most men refuse to face. When trust is broken, your first instinct isn't always right. Too often men overreact. They panic. They bombard her with messages, call repeatedly, or demand attention, thinking that constant presence will make her forgive them faster.
Wrong.
That behavior doesn't rebuild trust.
It
suffocates it. You might think you're showing commitment, but in reality, you're broadcasting desperation.
And
desperation is one of the fastest ways to push her further away. This is where so many men fail. They confuse persistence with leadership. Let me make it clear. Leading a relationship isn't about controlling her or pressuring her. It's about showing stability, self-control, and awareness. It's about giving her space to process her emotions while quietly demonstrating that you're capable of growth. Most men don't get
this.
They act like every moment she's distant is a personal attack.
When in
reality, she's just trying to see if
you've changed.
Wake up. Overreacting isn't love. It's insecurity. Giving space is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Women need time to observe your transformation without interference. If you fill every silence with messages or attempts to fix things, you rob her of the opportunity to notice your growth organically. The goal isn't to beg for her attention.
It's to allow
your actions to speak louder than words while she sees them unfold. That's leadership and that's maturity.
Here's
where the criticism hits hard. Many men don't realize that their impatience destroys their own chances.
They want
validation, instant forgiveness, or immediate results. They think because they've acknowledged their mistakes, she owes them trust. That thinking is not only arrogant, it's childish. Women respect patience, not panic. They respect consistency, not chaos.
If you
want trust back, you need to wake up and understand that your role isn't to
chase.
It's to lead quietly and responsibly. Leadership in a relationship means taking the initiative in a thoughtful, respectful way.
It
means maintaining boundaries, controlling your emotions, and showing that you can handle discomfort without losing your composure. When she sees that you can navigate the aftermath of your mistakes calmly and deliberately, she starts to feel safe again. And trust me, safety is the foundation for rebuilding any relationship. Without it, everything else falls apart.
Now let's
address another common mistake.
Men
often try to reconnect by
overcompensating.
They go overboard with gestures, gifts, or grand promises. Here's the wake-up call. These things may get her attention, but they rarely rebuild trust. Trust isn't about one impressive moment. It's about sustained behavior over time. If your actions aren't consistent, those gestures are meaningless. She can see through the theatrics, and it will likely reinforce her doubt rather than erase it.
The
Truth is reconnecting strategically requires thought, awareness, and
subtlety.
it's not about manipulation. It's about creating opportunity for her to notice your change naturally. It's about making her feel safe without pressuring her, showing reliability without announcing it, and demonstrating growth without making her chase you. Many men fail here because they confuse effort with effectiveness. Wake up. Just because you try hard doesn't mean you succeed. Criticism aside, there's hope, but only if you commit to self-awareness. Stop acting like she owes you trust. Stop reacting emotionally to her distance or silence. Stop trying to control her feelings. Instead, focus on being the man she can rely on, the man she can respect, and the man who consistently demonstrates
change.
That's how you lead without begging, and that's how you rebuild trust strategically. Here's a subtle but powerful point. Giving space and leading the relationship are not mutually exclusive. You can step back without disappearing. You can give her breathing room while maintaining quiet consistency in your behavior. She notices these things even if she doesn't say it aloud. That's how respect and eventually trust returns. Finally, let's hit the wake-up
Call hard.
Most men sabotage themselves by acting impulsively, selfishly, and impatiently. If you want trust back, you need to step up, control your impulses, and recognize that rebuilding a relationship is a process, not a transaction. It requires patience, self-discipline, and a focus on actions over words. Stop expecting forgiveness as a reward for your suffering.
Start
Thinking about how your actions create safety, stability, and respect, the real foundation for trust. Remember, women don't need men to plead or chase. They need men to lead responsibly, demonstrate growth, and give them the
space to see it.
That's not easy, and it's not instant. But if you can adopt this mindset, you'll not only rebuild trust, you'll emerge as a man who earns respect, strengthens the relationship, and avoids repeating the same mistakes in the future. Before we wrap this up, I need to hit you with a truth most men will hate hearing, but it's necessary. If you've lost a woman's trust, 90% of the reason isn't because she's hard to deal with or too sensitive. It's because you failed to be the man you claim to
be.
Let that sink in.
No excuses, no blamesiftin, no victim mentality.
Most men waste months or even years thinking they can fix things with words, attention, or gifts while completely ignoring the fundamental problem, their own behavior. That is the brutal reality. And here's the controversial
part.
If you're still whining about how difficult she is, you're probably the problem, not her.
Now, I know that's
going to sting. It's not what you want
to hear,
but it's the wake-up call you
need.
If you're serious about regaining her trust, the first step isn't strategizing texts or planning gestures. It's looking in the mirror and asking yourself, am I the man she can actually rely on? If your answer is anything other than a confident yes, then everything else you do is just noise. Most men never confront this truth.
They
choose excuses, and their relationships pay the price. Here's the point. Rebuilding trust isn't about luck.
It
isn't about timing or chance. It's about your ability to step up, own your mistakes, and show consistent change over time. It's about demonstrating accountability without being told to do
so.
And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it will test your patience. Yes, it will force you to face parts of yourself you don't like, but that's exactly what separates men who fail from men who succeed. Let's be honest, you probably
Know what I'm talking about.
you've been
There.
over-apologizing, over-explaining, overthinking every interaction, and still seeing minimal results. You think more effort automatically equals progress. That's a misconception. Women don't measure effort in words or gestures.
Alone.
They measure alignment between what you say and what you do.
That.
Alignment is rare, which is why most men never truly regain the trust they lost. Now, here's another controversial truth that most men won't admit. Trust is more about who you are than what you do.
You.
Can follow every guide, every tip, and every strategy perfectly, but if your character doesn't change, nothing sticks. She will see through it. Women are naturally attuned to consistency or the lack thereof. They can sense when a man is acting out of desperation, when he's chasing validation, and when he's repeating old patterns. That's why this video isn't about gimmicks or quick fixes. It's about real transformation. Here's where you come in. I want you to stop pretending you're the victim of your circumstances or her emotions.
Stop.
Thinking trust is something she owes
You.
Instead, start taking responsibility, proving reliability through your actions, and giving her space to observe your growth.
It's
Uncomfortable, yes, but that discomfort is where change happens. If you can commit to this, you'll not only regain her trust, you'll become a man who commands respect, stability, and reliability in every aspect of life.
and
Here's the bold, slightly controversial challenge. I want you to share your experiences in the comments below.
I
Want you to be honest, raw, and transparent about the mistakes you've made and the lessons you've learned.
know. Sugar coating. No excuses.
I promise to read them personally and reach out when I can, because this isn't just about teaching. It's about creating a connection, a real conversation, and a community of men who are ready to stop repeating the same mistakes. Trust me, there's power in putting your struggles out into the open. You'll see that you're not alone, and you'll also start seeing the steps you need to take more
Clearly.
At the end of the day, rebuilding trust is a process that demands patience, discipline, and self-awareness. It's uncomfortable, yes, and it requires humility, but it's also one of the most transformative things you can do, not just for her but for yourself. The men who succeed aren't the ones who begged, pleaded, or over-explained. They're the ones who stood firm, owned their mistakes, and let their actions speak louder than any apology. So, here's your takeaway.
If
You're ready to stop wasting time, stop blaming her, and start becoming the man she can trust. Start today. Reflect honestly on your mistakes.
commit to
Consistent actions that prove your
growth.
give space where needed.
Led.
Quietly. And most importantly, stop thinking that words alone will fix what only change can. Remember, this isn't
Just advice.
it's a wake-up call. Most men are losing the trust of the women they care about because they refuse to grow up. And if you don't wake up now, you'll keep repeating the same cycle for the rest of your life. Comment below, share your journey, and let's build a conversation together. I'll be engaging with your experiences personally, because growth is something we do better when we
Do it.